Hello, everybody. It's Snitch Racer here, and today is episode 7 of Snitch Racer's Dungeon. We're going to have four subjects to talk about today, actually. First of all, I want to talk about making it to 100 subscribers on YouTube. I also want to talk about my experience with the Bay and everything that happened when I went through an interview process and stuff like that. The other two subjects I want to talk about is the New York police, like basically taking away someone's squirrel and the repercussions of that. The last thing I want to talk about is the controversy around William Byron making it to the final four playoff positions in the NASCAR playoffs. All right, and then now let's just jump into the first subject here. All right, and yes, I actually made it to 100 subscribers on this channel, which is very exciting. I'm quite proud of myself for that. It took a little bit longer than I thought, as with the content I was making, I kind of thought I might get to 100 subscribers earlier than that, but alas, we still got there after a brief foray of going down below. Because the funny thing is, I got to 100 subs, then it went all the way up to 107, I think, and then it went back down to 99 overnight, which is a little saddening. So that was a little frustrating, but that's a whole nother issue that I could talk about on a different podcast, because it's bots. Long story short, it's bots. Bots sub to me, then YouTube deleted them. We'll talk more detail about that on a different podcast. What we want to focus on here is that I made it to 100 subs. That's all that matters at to the end of the day. And shout out to, I think it was Purple Voided. Yeah, Purple Voided. Shout out to them for becoming my 100 sub, my re-100 sub, because I went back down to 99 and they subbed to me to get it back out to get it back up to 100. So thank you again to them, and thank you to every single person who subbed to me. I appreciate the living crap out of you. Just thank you. It's I know it's only 100 subs, but it means a lot more to me than it really seems it would to someone looking out, like on the outside looking in. It just shows that people are at least interested, even if it's a minor following that I have so far. People are still interested in what I have to say and what I'm doing, and that's quite flattering. It gives me confidence in the fact that I can maybe get up to 500 or even 1,000 one day, maybe even 10,000, 100,000. Who knows? I don't have too much high expectations in that regard. I could see myself getting to 500 within the next 5-6 months, though. But to talk about my YouTube channel, like this YouTube channel I made about a year and a half ago. I didn't really make too much content, or it was about 2 years ago, I'd say, and I didn't really make any content for the first year, apart from the silly intro video that I ended up deleting because I was a bit embarrassed about it. But I didn't make any content for like a year. Then I slowly started. Oh, and then I didn't make content for about a year, and then I reignited, or I found a passion again for Twisted Metal, the Twisted Metal video game series. This is in large part due to the fact that I watched the first season of the TV show, which is available. I can't remember which service it's available on. I'm pretty sure it's different, where it's available somewhere in America, but on a different place here in Canada. You'll be able to find it. Just Google where to stream it if you'll want to watch it, because I highly recommend that show. It's not amazing, but it is just a fun show that doesn't take itself too seriously. Point is, though, after I watched that TV show, thanks to Vantiglow letting me know about it and everything, after I watched that TV show, it reignited a passion for me to start enjoying Twisted Metal once again, which first started out with me just streaming on the website called Twitch. So I'll be live playing video games while, my face is there and I'm talking and reacting to what's happening. Just for those who aren't aware of Twitch. So that's what I started out doing, playing Twisted Metal games. Then someone, while I was streaming, suggested maybe I should make videos about it. And here we are. So about a year ago is when about 8 months ago would be when I made my first Twisted Metal official video. I posted a few just videos of me just playing the game without, talking much or anything. It's just me playing the game. I posted a couple of those, but about 8 months ago is when I first posted my first subject-like video. I realized that I just really wanted to do some tier lists for the different like tier list for the different video games in the series of Twisted Metal. For those who don't know, basically a tier list is you get a, let's say I'm rating my favorite cereals, and we have a huge, the list will go from S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, D tier, and so on down to F tier. Honestly, most of the time it just goes S to D, then no, S to F most of the time. Uh then let's say I have Fruit Loops. I'm like, man, I love Fruit Loops, but they're not my favorite, so I'll put it in A tier. I would put them in S tier in reality, but I'm just using it as an example there. And then you do a whole list of that. So I started doing that with Twisted Metal 1 with the vehicles and different levels in the game. And then by Twisted Metal 2, I actually had a bit of a hit. My Twisted Metal 2 video, my Twisted Metal 2 tier list video for the vehicles is sitting at just under 1,200 views, which is insane. The funny thing is about that video too is it didn't really pop off right away. It took like a month, and then it started slowly going up and up exponentially. It was weird. I wish I could show you the statistics, but I don't really want to show that information. Oh yeah, and so that was my first sort of hit video. Before that, most of my tier lists were getting under 100 views. Most of my videos were getting under 100 views. And the nice thing is, though, once that Twisted Metal 2 tier list video popped off, my first Twisted Metal 1 tier list video actually got over 600 views, which is crazy because it had under 100 for the first 4 months it was up, and then suddenly it just shot up. It really shows you the power of the algorithm and why I really should continue making videos, even when they don't get a lot of views, because you never know. We'll talk about that in a second, though. Then yeah, I just kept making more tier list videos and stuff like that. Most of my videos are just tier lists of the different video games, the different games in the series of Twisted Metal, with the occasional playthrough and stuff like that. My latest video, though, was completely different, which brings me to like my next subject is my next topic or my next point here, which brings me to my next point here in regards to my channel. That was just a brief history there, but my latest video I posted was like a passion project or just a video showing how much I love a mod for Twisted Metal 4. Basically a mod, just for those who don't know, a mod basically takes any video game and changes it to however you want. So Pedro made a mod that completely changes Twisted Metal 4 to making it 100 times better. So I made a video about that, how much I love that game, or that mod, why I love it, and everything like that, which is a bit different from what I've done with the tier list. A bit different, which is a bit different. So that is the future now. Like at first, most of my videos are going to be tier list based, but because it seems like people like my narration style and the way I edit, I'm going to be putting a little bit more effort into different ideas other than just tier lists. For example, one of the series I want to do in the future is Does It Age Well? I haven't thought of how to do this, but it would be called Does It Age Well? Basically, I would take any PS1 game, let's say NASCAR 98, and then do a subject or do a bit of a discussion on whether it ages well, whether the gameplay ages well, the features age well, that kind of thing. I want to do some appreciation videos for Twisted Metal Small Brawl, maybe some subjects of my top 5 favorite Twisted Metal characters, stuff like that. What I'm trying to say is I'm going to be switching it up so it's not just a tier list channel. I will be continuing doing those tier lists, though, as Twisted Metal Black is next up for the tier list. I should have those up in the next couple of weeks, but in the future, it's not going to just be tier lists. Again, though, I am finishing up those tier lists because I love the tier lists, so, and they're my most popular videos, so I obviously am still going to do tier lists for Twisted Metal Black, Twisted Metal Small Brawl, Twisted Metal Head On, and Twisted Metal for the PS3. Yes, I still have 4 games to go. That's crazy, but so that's all the ideas that I have, or that's just a few of the ideas that I have so far to grow the channel or to shake things up. But I'm asking you, the viewer or the listener, depending on if I end up uploading this on audio or not, asking the viewer here, what do you think I should do next? What do you think, like, just give me some suggestions on some videos I could do. No promises on me doing them, obviously, but I do love suggestions. I mean, some of my most favorite, like, streams and videos I've made have come from people's suggestions. In fact, most of the most of my favorite YouTube streams have been direct suggestions from other users. So, please, recommend any subject idea you can think of, even if it's a little bit different. I'm trying to keep my channel on here mostly focused on video games and a little bit on culture in general in this podcast. But as far as the non-podcast videos, I want to keep them video game based. So try to keep the ideas to video games, but if you have something maybe completely different, suggest that too. Maybe I'll switch things up. I could also start a second channel. I'm just gonna discuss, I guess, since we're here, why I want to keep it in a video game type niche. This channel. The reason is essentially how YouTube works nowadays, and it didn't used to work this way back in the day. But essentially, how it works nowadays is your channel has to have some sort of niche or subject, or else people will just lose interest. Actually, it's not even that people will lose interest; it'll kind of just mess with the algorithm on YouTube, right? Because how YouTube, let's say I'm only posting video game stuff, and then suddenly I post a video about hockey. Now the only and I have like whatever. Let's say I have 500 subs. I post a video about hockey, and now maybe only 20 of my subs like hockey, so only 20 of my subs watch the video. Then YouTube is like, holy crap, obviously this video is terrible. That's why people aren't clicking on it. And then YouTube will straight up not recommend it to anybody else. So you're kind of just trapped into your niche with the way that YouTube works, which is a bit frustrating. So yeah, so basically that's why I'm trying to keep the channel video game based, and why I may start a second channel eventually that's less video game based, maybe just me reacting to stuff. I don't know. What I'm trying to say is if I'm switching subjects, I'm probably going to start a second channel altogether. Before we move on to the next subject, though, I just want to thank a few people here. First of all, again, thank you to anybody who subbed and supported me at all. And I apologize in advance if I'm missing anyone important here. First of all, I want to thank Vantiglow for being the original person who pushed me to start streaming again and start making YouTube videos again. Or more or less the streaming than the YouTube videos. Either way, Vantiglow, you're the reason that I started streaming TM games again. And without you, essentially, I wouldn't be here in this place. So thank you so much, Vantiglow. You get 1E for the road. And by the way, Vantiglow, that's my friend Mason. That's my friend Mason, by the way. I'll say his real name. And then next, I want to thank my friend Sub-Zero, or as I know him, Garrett, my real life friend. He's been my biggest supporter on YouTube. He quite literally watches every single one of my YouTube videos. Apart from my podcasts, he doesn't really like those as much, but I beggars can't be choosers. I'm not gonna be upset because he doesn't want to watch my podcast or anything. He already spends like at least 30 minutes a week watching my YouTube videos. So thank you, Sub-Zero, thank you, Garrett, for that. Like he literally watches my videos even if it's a subject he's not that interested in. Like he watches all my tier list videos on Twisted Metal games that he's never even played. So thank you, Sub-Zero. Thank you, Bryce, as well. He watches a lot of my videos, comes to my streams, another real life friend. I want to thank my dad as well. He shouted, or he was very he. I want to thank my dad as well. He's extremely supportive of this podcast, and honestly, I probably wouldn't have continued this podcast if he didn't keep motivating me to do it. Along with Vantiglow, by the way. Another few names I want to mention here as well. I had to mention the people I know in real life first, but I want to shout out Thomas, 1995. He's been a supporter for several months now. He's also my main moderator on YouTube and Twitch, and he's been doing a great job. He also does watch most of my videos as well, so thank you for that. And he's just generally there for almost every single live stream if he can be. So thank you, Thomas. He even listens to this podcast. He's very supportive. He's my most supportive person probably in this community that isn't someone I know in real life. So thank you, Thomas. Also, speaking of someone that's supportive of me, that's not someone I know in real life. You got Ayrton as well. Shout out to him. He watches most of my live streams as well. Watches quite a few of my YouTube videos. He's there a lot. He's supported me by buying subs on Twitch, buying bits on Twitch. He's actually supported me financially, so that's crazy. That I can't thank you enough, Ayrton. Again, thank you so much. And all right, now we get briefly into a more sort of negative subject, I guess. I've been wanting to talk about this for a couple months, but I put it off just in case I ever got a call back from the Bay. But I'm gonna discuss the terrible, or the I wouldn't say terrible, but not great outcome of my interview process that the Bay had me go through, or rather the hiring process. Sorry, the interview process was fine. It was weird, but it was fine. We'll get into that in a second. We're going to go quickly into how the Bay actually made me think and even told me I was hired, only to basically tell me, to go F myself at the end of the day and not actually hire me. So, first of all, just to talk about the interview, I got an interview with the Bay, and it was actually through an employment agency. They are very good. I don't want to say the specific name just in case for privacy reasons, but they're amazing. They got me an interview with the Bay directly. They talked to one of the hiring managers and said, "Hey, this Jack guy, he is great. You should really give him an interview." And that was very flattering. So shout out to that company. Again, I don't want to give out specifics. Shout out to that company. Uh so then they told me it was a group interview, which is funny. I seem to be the only person that got that information, because once I got to the group interview, every single person was like, "Whoa, this is a group interview?" Which is crazy. I genuinely think I was the only person who knew that, which gave me an advantage. So when I got to the group interview, I mean, I've had one group interview before. It was with 4 people, including me, so 3 other people. That's the most. When I got to here, I counted them. There was 14 other people, so 15 of us in total, being interviewed. It was quite awkward, but it was a good experience. I actually kind of enjoyed the group interview experience, to be honest, even though I was really nervous and put off at first by the sheer number of people in the group. Once I started to slowly hear everyone be like, "Oh, wait, I didn't know this was a group interview. I didn't know this was a group interview," and everyone freaking out, I was like, okay, I'm actually more prepared for this than it seems like everybody, through not even their own faults. Because if I were to guess, now that I know that they gave me false information too, if I were to guess, they just didn't tell those people that it was a group interview. I think they just didn't for some reason, but that's just a guess. I don't know. I'm just speculating in that regard. And so the group interview went great. I could honestly tell that I was, getting a good impression. I had a really good feeling about being hired because, for one of the mistakes a lot of people were doing when doing the group interview, and this is why it showed that they weren't as prepared, unfortunately, as I was, because I did a crap load of research on group interviews. But anyways, you could tell a lot of them weren't. What they were doing is, if the interviewer asks you a question, one of the biggest advices that I got, in regards to group interviews, and I did this in the original group interview regardless, is to address the whole group. Don't ignore the fact that everyone else is there. Like, if the interviewer is asking you a question, literally be like, when you answer the question, be like, "Yeah, I'm from Toronto," and and make eye contact with them, like that's how you do it. Don't make it don't ignore everybody in the room. It's weird, and the interviewer knows that. They want you to be able to address the group. From what I understand, it's actually one of the tests of a group interview. So I'd say me and 2 other people were the only ones that actually addressed the group. Everyone else was kind of just talking directly to the interviewer, like everyone else wasn't there. So once I started seeing that, I just started gaining so much confidence. I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm definitely getting this job," along with me and that other guy and that other girl, because they were the most. I even guessed the other 2 people they were probably going to hire with me, and then they didn't hire anyone. But that's we'll wait to that at the end. Yeah, the interview process went great. The one thing I even impressed them with was telling them how, like, the reason I ended up applying here, why I want to work with the Bay, is because you guys are the longest living company in North America. You are the oldest. I can't remember the exact year, but I did in the interview. I told them the exact year, and I could just see the lady's face. As soon as I said that, she's like, "Whoa, no one ever does that." I think she literally said that. She had something along the lines like, "Whoa, no one ever tells me that." So I knew the interview went well. It was actually a good interview. What happened is a few days later, I got a call from the hiring manager at the Bay. So I answered the phone. She says, "Hey, I'm Jack, blah, blah, blah. We think your interview went great, and we'd like to go through the next process of hiring you." I was like, "Awesome. Hell yeah. Great." I'd love to work there. It's literally an hour bus ride. I don't care. I just need a job. And it's actually a company I, at least at the time, respected because of how much history they had. And then they told me that I should be getting a official offer through email within the next week or so, maybe less, uh, and everything like that. They said it might be a couple of days delayed because the hiring process is still going through. And then it was about a week and a half, and I was like, okay, that's a little weird. They said wait a week, but now it's been more than that. So I called the bay and they're like, oh yeah, we're just having a bit of a delay right now. Just wait another week. And then I waited another week. It's been 2.5 weeks now. I'm like, okay, well, clearly I'm not getting hired or something. Something's weird here. And so I, and it, oh yeah. And so next, and so when I didn't hear from them for that long, I emailed my caseworker, my employment agency caseworker, to see if they could talk to their connection to the Bay to see what's happening. So then they emailed me back. The Bay is on a hiring freeze for a year or something like that. For the further notice, up to a year, apparently. What? Why did they try to hire people then? Like, I genuinely don't even know what to say to that. It's been months now, and I still don't even know what to say about it practically because it doesn't even make sense. Why would you offer me a job if you didn't actually know you could hire me? You had to have known you were on a hiring freeze. That doesn't even make sense. Like, what were you doing? What were you doing? Why would you be hiring people then and then a week later there was a hiring freeze? That doesn't even make sense. That really doesn't make sense. So that's just one of the problems that I have. It doesn't make sense. Clearly, the hiring manager didn't do her research or something. Maybe she didn't realize they were on a hiring freeze, or there was something weird in that regard. But my biggest problem too that I have with it is the fact that they called me in the first place. You shouldn't have called me and offered me the gosh darn job if you didn't actually have the official hiring available. The only time you should say you have the job, which is literally what they said, she said, "Congrats, you have the job." Well, guess what? I don't. But the only time you should tell someone that is when they actually have the job. And not like you should be able to send the offer email that day. That is so unbelievably unprofessional, which is so disappointing because I loved that company before, but now I only see them as a very unprofessional company that does not really care about how they treat people. Just in general, though, like seeing that happen just brought back all the bad experiences I've had at the Bay. I've had a couple of bad experiences I won't get into, but I kind of ignored them for the fact that I like their reputation, and they sort of ruined that now by doing what they've done here with fake hiring me. And now the worst part about that is I went through the emotions of being extremely excited about the fact that my job hunt stress and the search for it, the stress was kind of relieved. It was only a part-time job, so I was going to continue to try to find more full-time work, but at least I didn't have the stress of just being jobless like I have right now. And so I had that relief of that stress. I got excited, started thinking about how, oh my God, I'm not unemployed anymore. This is exciting. I can tell my friends, my family, my grandpa, my grandma. I even told my dad and everything. Told friends online that I was hired. Nah, it was just a big fake thing. I had to go through the entire job hunting process all over again like it never happened. I don't want to talk about it too much, but just in general, Bay, get your crap together, dude. Maybe at the end of the day, I'm still just it sucks that I'm still frustrated about that because again, like it was a company I used to love and respect, and now I have to tell people this story every time they bring it up instead, which sucks because I used to like actually shopping. Well, I used to like the atmosphere there and the history of the company. So I don't really like shopping there because it's overpriced, but we'll uh we'll just move on from this subject. Now, moving on to a subject that actually got a bit more depressing than it was originally when I planned on talking about this subject, and that is Peanut the Squirrel. All right, so who was Peanut the Squirrel? And it sucks that I have to say was now, but we'll get into that in a bit. I actually have an article here that I'm going to quote directly just so we get the right information here. All right, so this is a quote from the article by The Guardian that's called, and this is kind of a messed up title in my opinion, but the article is called "Rest in Peace, Peanut the Squirrel. At least he wasn't flushed away like Pebbles the hamster." That's so barbaric. But anyways, it's just a typical article title to get you to click and cause, a bit of weirdness or whatever. This is a quote from the article. In short, Peanut was rescued by Mark Longo, a New Yorker, after the animal's mother was run over by a car 7 years ago. Peanut, who often sported jaunty miniature hats, lived with Fred the raccoon and a bunch of other rescue animals and amassed a social media following. So essentially, to sum that up, he got a huge. He was rescued, got a huge social media following because he wore a bunch of hats and it's cute. Just typical internet stuff. And sadly, though, here comes the bad part of the story. So, all right, to quote the article again, quote, Longo was apparently in the process of filling out paperwork to get Peanut certified as an educational animal when authorities raided his home and euthanized both the squirrel and Fred the raccoon because they were worried about the possibility of the spread of rabies. And so, so the New York Animals, or the New York Humane Society, or some sort of animal group in New York that works for the state or the city, I can't remember off the top of my head, they essentially went into their apartment and, or that man's home. His name was Mark Longo. They went into Mark Longo's home and took away both his animals that he was actually in the process of getting labeled and officially named as educational animals, which essentially means he can have a wild animal in his house without getting in trouble, from what I understand. So he was actually in the process of doing that, and that's when the New York Animal Society, or whatever it is, decided to go grab the animals. That's just weird to me. Doesn't that, like, maybe there's some facts I'm missing here, but doesn't that seem like a really weird timing? Like, they really just wanted to kill this squirrel? Because and speaking of the squirrel passing away, because when I first did the article, when I first was going to do the subject, the squirrel was still alive. It was just being, like detained or whatever at the Animal Society at the time. But unfortunately, they have actually euthanized it since then. And so, so it sucks. And it's terrible, honestly, to see. Like, I know there's probably reasons why there's laws for wild animals. There's obvious reasons you can't spread rabies and all that stuff. Though, in my opinion, it seemed like this guy seemed to know what he was doing a bit. And I mean, if that animal had rabies, wouldn't he have had rabies by now? He would have already had it by now. So it doesn't really make sense. Like, both those animals, it really didn't make sense to me. I get that those laws are there for a reason to prevent rabies from happening. It just sucks to see, though, and to me, it kind of doesn't make sense. Like, it's just upsetting to see. You never want to see I know it's just one squirrel in a world of millions of squirrels or whatever, billions of squirrels, probably billions and billions, and anyways, billions of squirrels. It still sucks to see because that squirrel amassed a social media following. And people love that squirrel. So he wasn't just a squirrel like a lot of people are making it out to be. A lot of, conservative type people, because this has become a left versus right issue, because this is 2024 and everything has to become that. If you're a liberal, you have to love the squirrel and, support it no matter what. If you're a conservative, you have to hate the squirrel and be happy it's dead. It's really, it's really dumb, in my opinion. No thinking for yourself in this society anymore, but alas, that's a subject for a different podcast. Oh, yeah. And the thing is, too, and why this partly happened is because people online saw the squirrel being happy and reported it. And people like that knew that it was technically illegal. And it's strange. There's always been people that will just have they have a need to bust people for breaking laws, even if they don't even. Like, it's not even a morality thing. They just see someone breaking a rule, and for some reason they want to tell on them. It's weird. It's just something that certain people do online all the time. And it's not even because they think it's going to benefit anybody. They just want to see the person in trouble. It's very strange. Now, for the people who reported the squirrel for being, there and are the people who reported it and got the squirrel taken away, there probably was people that were intending to get it killed because there's evil people out there, but I strongly believe the majority of those people were just weirdos who like, busting people for breaking the rules. They probably are feeling pretty bad about the fact that squirrel got killed. Now, since the squirrel got killed too, there's been quite the outrage, and of course, people are going to overreact. Yes, it's sad. Yes, it sucks, but people are going absolutely nuts over it. No pun intended. That's hilarious. Uh, that's hilarious. Anyways, pardon the accidental pun there. So people are just generally overreacting. People they're sending in death threats, and I correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure the New York City got like bomb threats over it. Come on, man, it's a squirrel. Like, sure, it's sad and it sucks, and that squirrel, didn't deserve to die. It sucks. Everyone's sad about it, but don't turn this into like an insane, uh, crazy situation like that over a squirrel. Come on, man. Like, grow up. Grow up. Like, we're all sad here. Just get over, like, grieve like a normal person. Don't go get violent over it. Jesus Christ. It is a squirrel at the end of the day. And the other thing, people are like threatening the New York police and mad at them. Don't get mad at the police. They were just doing their job. Jesus. Literally. They're just doing their job. It's so weird. Like, people are like yelling at the police saying they should have refused. How? Are you allowed to refuse to do something at your job and still keep it? Probably not. Jesus. And it sucks. It really sucks to see everyone fighting at each other now too. Like, the result of this is like I said, it became a left versus right issue where people are like screaming at each other and saying the squirrel deserved to die, or you deserve to die for not wanting the squirrel to die. Like, it's getting insane. It's all over a squirrel. What the heck? And again, like, I'm sad about it. It sucks, but come on, man, grow up. Like, like, if you're upset about Peanut the squirrel being like, if you're upset about that situation, maybe tell the people of New York to change the laws, or like, I don't know. It sucks. Just get a grip on the fact of reality that crappy things like this are gonna happen, and the only way to avoid hearing about them or seeing them is just to not turn on the news or social media, because stuff like this is happening all over the world all the time. So, like, again, like, it just seems weird to me that this turned into a left versus right issue. Like, genuinely, people are calling people like snowflakes because they care about a squirrel dying, and then other people are like, it's so dumb. It's so dumb, dude. This entire thing, like, at the end of the day, shouldn't we all just be grieving the freaking squirrel and not fighting? Like, come on, man. Can't we all just grieve the squirrel? This seems like ridiculous. Like, if there's a squirrel heaven and he's looking on down upon us right now, he probably thinks we're all freaking stupid for arguing over him. He's like, I'm just a squirrel, bro. Come on. Anyways, though, to sum up the subject, I am definitely pretty upset still about the fact that they would euthanize the squirrel in a way that seemed almost malicious. Again, it felt strange timing that he was in the process of making it legal, and then they like got it just in time so they could legally euthanize it. That is bad, and they should probably change something with the New York Animal Society or whatever group that did that. They should probably change that for sure. What we shouldn't do, though, is start doing death threats and stuff like that. It's not going to solve any issues. The squirrel's already passed away. The problem already happened. You're not going to solve anything from getting mad at someone. Either way, rest in peace, Peanut the squirrel. We're all quite sad to see you go. Hopefully you're resting well. All right, on to the final subject, and here I will be discussing the controversy around William Byron getting the fourth and final position for the championship race of the NASCAR playoffs. For non-NASCAR fans, I will quickly go over the playoff system that they have here. For NASCAR, I can't remember which year as it happened before I got back into NASCAR, but because I used to be into NASCAR for quite a long time, took a large break, got back into it around 2019. But anyways, the playoff system started around 2016, maybe. Again, I can't remember which year. Essentially, we have a regular season, and then the top 16 drivers at the end of the regular season all get to go into the playoffs. And it's not just by points either. You can also basically you get into the playoffs automatically if you get a win, and then the points will decide your position after that. The majority of drivers do get in just on the win alone, but like 90% of those drivers who get in on a win, we're going to make the playoffs regardless. So the playoff system itself is actually pretty good in that regard, where the people who end up in the top 16, 90% of the time are players or drivers that should be there. With the playoff system, too, it's about every 3 races where they eliminate 4 drivers. So after 3 races, it's down to 12. Those 4 lowest drivers get eliminated. Then after another 3, it's down to 8. And then after another 3, it's down to 4. When I'm recording this, it is November 7th, 2024, and last weekend would have been the second last race of the NASCAR season or the NASCAR playoffs, either way. And so how it works is there was eight drivers still left in the playoffs going into last weekend's race, and at the end there's only going to be 4. Those 4 get to race for the championship this weekend coming up in Phoenix. And whoever finishes first out of those 4 gets the championship. So there's 4 people competing equally for the championship in the final race, which is good for some people and bad for others. It was getting, without going into too much of the race, it wasn't that exciting of a race. It was kind of boring, but that's just how Martinsville is these days. That's a whole nother subject. It was getting down to what was the last like 20 or 30 laps or so, and it was the way the points was William Byron was in 4th in the final position for the playoffs, but he was only 1 point in, as he has not won a race in that round. He was in 4th place, 1 point ahead of Chris Bell, who was in 5th place and trying to get up to 4th and eliminate William Byron and take that playoff spot, the final one. If William Byron were to lose one position, he would lose the final playoff spot for Chris Bell. Or if Chris Bell were to pass one car in the last 20 laps, he would also make the playoffs instead if William Byron doesn't pass anybody else. It was that close. And so 2 strange things happened. First of all, what the original controversy is, going into the final corner of the last lap, Bubba Wallace, my favorite driver, by the way, happened to at least say he had a tire down, so he started slowing down going into the final corner, and then Chris Bell saw that as an opportunity to make a pass, so he made a really aggressive pass, which made him lose control and slide right up into the wall. And once he got right into the wall, he just gassed it and slid along the last half of the wall, sort of similar to what we call the Hail Melon. So Chris Bell just gunned it on the gas and used the wall basically to turn, which allows him to go a lot faster around the corner than he otherwise would. So the issue with this is about 2 years ago, a driver named Ross Chastain did the same move, but he used the entire final corner instead of just the second half. At that time, that was a legal move, so Ross Chastain was not punished, but literally the following day after he used that move, NASCAR banned the move. I can't remember if that's 2022 or 2023, but either way, the move is banned in 2024. So when Chris Bell gunned it when he was on the wall, it was sort of like a half version of that move. And so when the final results were that William Byron was eliminated on paper and Christopher Bell was getting into the final playoff position. But Chris Bell didn't celebrate and William Byron didn't look disappointed because Chris Bell knew that he might have done an illegal move at the time. He wasn't sure if it was illegal yet, so he wasn't like disappointed, but he was waiting to see if he was actually going to make the playoffs. Regardless, like he knew he probably broke the rules. He had a really good feeling that he broke the rules. So it was this weird moment where for like 20 minutes they were just watching both William Byron and Chris Bell not know if they're in the playoffs or not until NASCAR finally made a decision. And so I have an article by Fox Sports here, and I'm going to quote it directly as to some of the, in regards to NASCAR's decision here. Quote, NASCAR determined that Bell made an unsafe move and put him on the tail end of the lap he was on. He was 1 lap down, costing him 4 spots and leaving him those 4 points short of the championship for the final 4. William earned the spot on points, while the race winner, Brian Blaney, joined previous semi-final round winners Joey Logano and Tyler Reddick in earning automatic bids to compete for the title next Sunday, end quote. So, first of all, in my opinion, the beginning of that quote, or the beginning of that paragraph, is worded very poorly and it's confusing for people who don't know NASCAR. Essentially, what they're trying to say at the beginning of that is that William Byron, or Chris Bell, was punished for making that move. NASCAR determined it was unsafe, and he was punished by reducing his points by 4, and then he was punished by basically bringing him to the end of the lead lap, which made him lose a bunch of positions, and he was 4 points below the playoffs instead of being 1 point in. Or rather, actually tied with William Byron on points, but he won on the tiebreak. Either way, he was in the finals. He was out of the playoffs instead of being in the final spot. And essentially, like, NASCAR has this rule in place for safety, they say, which is weird because they constantly use that move. Like, the move they banned, they constantly use the original version from it from Ross Chastain in every promotional video for Martinsville. So they say the move's illegal, but they constantly use that move to advertise the race, and that's just silly in my opinion. That really shows that NASCAR is quite out of touch, but that's, again, a whole nother subject. And so this wasn't the only controversial thing in regards to that final playoff spot, because William Byron was like slowly losing a position every few laps right until he got to the cutoff point. Essentially, he needed one more person to pass him, and he was out of the playoffs. And the weird thing is, at that exact moment, no one passed him for the last 30 laps for some reason. That was just a huge red flag, because why would that happen? And so he drives a Chevy, and the 2 cars the 2 cars behind him were also Chevys. And what actually happened is the 2 Chevys behind him lined up side by side and were just straight up blocking anyone that were trying to pass both of them, while simultaneously not even trying to pass William Byron, which is super suspicious. There's no confirmation that they were necessarily doing anything, but there is something fishy going on. It's funny that I say that exact quote, because there's a quote in this article here from Bell Sports, from Christopher Bell here, Chris Bell. He says, quote, "It was clear what was going on," end quote. So even William Byron thinks, or even Christopher Bell thinks it's suspicious. Because, yeah, if you go back and watch the last 20 minutes of the race, it does seem extremely weird that neither of the 2 Chevys behind him, which were Austin Dillon and Ross Chastain. Shout out to Ross Chastain, by the way. Funny that he was one of them, but both of them weren't passing them whatsoever, which is weird, especially for someone like Ross Chastain, who literally used the wall 2 years ago to pass like 10 people on the same track. But he won't pass William Byron? Yeah. Even though I'm a huge William Byron fan, and I gotta say, there was something weird going on there. And actually, it's not even William Byron's fault. I guarantee you he had no idea that was happening. Because if you listen to the radio, he sounded quite stressed about being passed. So I really, truly think he had no idea what was happening. I think Chevy was behind this. I truly think that Chevy just wanted at least one more Chevy in the playoffs. So because there was only going to be one if William Byron didn't make it I can't remember who it was. Kyle Larson? Oh, no, I'm actually wrong. I thought there was another Chevy. Turns out, no. William Byron was going to be the only Chevy in the playoffs if he made it, and he did. So it is a bit suspicious that, yeah, I could see Chevy blocking. It's called race fixing was what they call it. I could see Chevy doing some race fixing just to make sure there's a Chevy in the playoffs. Either way, it really does seem really obvious there was something going on there. And then when NASCAR investigated that, they determined there wasn't anything going on, even though it seems so obvious. Like, if you listen to the radio too, on both Ross Chastain's and Austin Dillon's radio, they mentioned both of them how he's 1 point to the good, and without saying anything, they just don't pass him. Like they're like, "Hey man, William Byron's 1 point to the good, 1 point to the good," and then they stop. They don't pass him. Like, to me, I think there was some sort of code going on there where both Austin Dillon and Ross Chastain knew that if William Byron or any other Chevy was 1 point in, they weren't going to pass them. It was some sort of code. That's why they didn't say it directly. Because for those who don't know, NASCAR's radio is completely public, so you can't hide anything you say on the radio. So they have to talk in code like that. And the weird thing is, it wasn't the only race fixing I think happened, by the way. Even my favorite driver, Bubba Wallace, suspiciously, he was the car ahead of Chris Bell, and Chris Bell would have to pass Bubba Wallace to get the final playoff spot. And then going into the final lap, someone came on to Bubba's radio saying something like Chris Bell just needs one more point, and if he passes you, he's in the playoffs. Is essentially what they said to him. And Bubba 5 seconds later was like, I have a tire going down. I have a tire going down. And then he got all loose in the corner. Could be a crazy coincidence, but I don't know, man. There's something that is extremely suspicious. What would be the chances of him getting told that his fellow Toyota is needs to pass him to get into the playoffs, and then suddenly he has an issue? And again, I'm not blaming Bubba. I think this goes all the way up. I really think that Toyota and Chevy both have decided that they were going to basically fix the race to make sure certain people got in. And some people are starting to think it's like a NASCAR thing, but I don't think NASCAR, like, I started to think about that. I don't think NASCAR has anything to do with this. I just think that they aren't going to bust anyone because they don't want to. I don't think they're, orchestrating this, but I also don't think they're stopping them. The reason I don't think they're orchestrating it is because, the Chris Bell, the reason I don't think they're orchestrating this is because the people not passing William Byron and then also Bubba Wallace getting the mysterious down tire completely contradict each other. They're fighting each other. It was two different groups of people trying to fix the race, and one won over the other, essentially. So I don't think NASCAR has anything to do with this directly, but I also don't think they're going to stop anyone. Now, herein lies the issue with the playoff system. The only reason that people are doing this is because of the playoff system and the fact that you have to get to the Final Four to even have a chance at the championship. The fact that there can be one last race that determines the final spot totally just, for obvious reasons, encourages behavior like this, because you can essentially just ask other teams to not pass you. Essentially, I don't know, like, even though I like the playoff system, when stuff like this happens, it sucks. Even now, like, William Byron's going to make it to the Final Four, and he's my second favorite driver, just a little bit under Bubba. The sad thing is, now if he goes to win the championship, people are going to make it illegitimate because he might have cheated. Well, Chevy might have helped him cheat to get there. So all this, essentially what I'm trying to say is, all this controversy is going to make it so it could sully Williams' celebration and make it so he has sort of an asterisk next to the championship where everyone knows that he probably got, Chevy to cheat to get him in, or Chevy cheated to get him in. I don't think he made that decision himself. So if he goes on to win the championship, I'll be happy, but it'll also kind of suck because he shouldn't have been there. But then again, no, he shouldn't have been there. Yeah, he shouldn't have been there. He should have been way back there. The two Chevys would have passed him. But it's really obvious to me that they didn't on purpose. And so, in my opinion, NASCAR really needs to look into changing how the playoff system works. Maybe keep it the way it is. I don't know. I'm not an expert on this crap. But they need to change something to discourage the race fixing, because that sucks, man. No one wants to see someone, no one wants to see that. We're here to go watch racing, not, reality TV where the results are decided already, like shows like The Voice where they say you can vote, but the results are actually determined by them. That's been proven. We don't want that. We don't want The Voice or American Idol. We want racing, man. We just NASCAR. But for real, though, yeah. Either way, I'm just congratulations to William Byron for getting into the playoffs. I look forward to the race this weekend for the championship, though I don't really have much confidence in him winning because he's been not as good in the last few races. I really think it won't be him, but I'll be happy if it is. Just looking forward to that race in general. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this subject. And like always, before we get going here, I just want to tell you about my album of the podcast or album of the week. This one is a bit of a classic. It is an album that came out in the 1970s, or 1970 itself, actually, specifically. It's called Brighter Later. I might be pronouncing that wrong, but it's Brighter Later by Nick Drake. This is an all-time classic, in my opinion. This is up there with one of the best, like, traditional, almost like acoustic folk type music. I might be getting that genre wrong. It's one of the best acoustic only albums of all time, in my opinion. And honestly, Nick Drake has had 3 bangers in that regard. Five Leaves Left is another one I recommend. But alas, this album is just beautiful from start to finish. I know I called it acoustic earlier, but it is mostly acoustic, but it does use other instruments layered without the album, and it uses it very well. It's just a very pretty album. The kind of album that's good to put on in the morning when you're just waking up and you want something soothing and nice. His voice is quite pretty, in my opinion. It's hard to describe. It's not a traditionally beautiful voice. It's just something about his style that I really like. And there isn't a bad song on this album. Every single song on this album is great. Probably my favorite song is Northern Sky, I'd say, though that might change. I've only started listening to this album in the last, like, 6 or 7 months, so my favorite song might change is what I'm saying. But every single song is great on the album. Just a great album to even put on the background while you're studying or something like that. It's fantastic. In fact, it's probably in the top 3 of the albums I've recommended so far, maybe even number 1. Just a great album overall. It's Brighter Later by Nick Drake. Give it a listen. I can't even really describe why. It's hard for me to do it justice. Just give it a listen, please, to anybody out there. Anyways, that's going to be it for Snitch Racer's Dungeon today. Let me know if you guys have any subjects you want me to talk about next week, or from 2 weeks from now for the next podcast, as I don't have any idea what I want to talk about next. I do know one subject, but that's about it, so I'm open to new ideas. Either way, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and that's about it. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks.